Oh, I almost did it right. I was so proud of myself. Wait. Reveal. Hi, guys.
And we have to put the logo up at the top.
Oh, right.
This is like the first show that we've ever done.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, look, there's two choices. That.
Well, we do the Pride.
But what we really are,
Pride.
Live and Pride.
Oh, it says live. Hey, guys, our stupid name isn't there. It's so weird. Our names haven't been appearing on the bottom these days, and I don't know why. I don't
know.
Anyway, I'm Seth. This is James. Stars in the House. We began this mid-March, right when Broadway shut down, to raise money for the Actors Fund. And if you do not know, the Actors Fund is for everybody in the business, on stage, backstage, anybody in IATSE, any crew member can get help from the Actors Fund. Ushers, box office people, you go to actorsfund.org, pay your, help pay your rent, health insurance, doctor's bills. They have great counseling. So you can go to actorsfund.org. And since we began, how much have we raised for the Actors Fund?
It's well over $350,000 at this point. I'm not exactly sure where we left off last.
Yes. And then last week we pivoted donations to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund
and Educational Fund.
I know, but it's
actually not even known as NAACP Legal and Defense Legal Defense and Educational Fund.
Known as LDF.
LDF.
So just for people who don't know what it is. And you know what? We don't know how much we've raised so far. We've been raising great money. We just don't know yet how much everyone's been donating because they've basically been kind
of busy lately and stuff.
They're not that big of an organization, and they've been doing congressional hearings. So it's we haven't gotten the exact amount, but the donations have been amazing. But if you don't know what they are, NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund is America's premier legal organization fighting for racial justice. The premier one. Who founded it?
Thurgood Marshall.
Correctamundo. Through litigation, advocacy, and public education, LDF seeks structural changes to expand democracy, eliminate disparities, and achieve racial justice in a society that fulfills the promise of equality for all Americans. LDF, I love this, also defends the gains and protections won over the last 75 years of civil rights struggle. Every time they're trying to change the law and pull things back, LDF is like, no, dear, we already won that battle. We're not going to fight it again. They literally say no, dear. It's part of their court case. Okay. And they work to improve the quality and diversity of judicial and executive appointments. It's all about having some diversity out there. So they're a great organization. And the way you donate, on the bottom, you go to NAACP LDF.
.org/stars in the house.
I know it's kind of a headache, but that way we can keep track of it.
Right.
But then once you do, you're going to get a receipt.
You'll get a donation receipt, and then you forward it to us
immediately
to Stars in the House 2020 at Gmail if you want.
It's fun.
One of our cast members today to read your name.
Are you downplaying it because it's almost too real? It's not
too real.
It's not
you don't like that?
Yeah. But the point is,
I'm not auditioning for a job.
So the point is, once you make the donation, you forward it, and then we'll forward it to one of our many cats, and they will read it out loud.
I know. I was thinking, it's we really needed Romeo here.
He's here. No, he was just walking around. Our cat.
Almost we have to put catnip here on the table.
Oh, I should be holding a cat. Anyway, we're having a cats reunion. If you don't know,
and we don't mean the movie.
No, dear.
We mean the original Broadway.
Yeah, the Broadway.
Yeah,
right. We're nonpartisan, so we're not going to comment. But let's just say we don't mean the movie.
Let's just say it's not the movie.
Okay, so if you would, I'd like to bring out some of the very famous cats. So here we go. The original Old Deuteronomy, the amazing Ken Page.
Hello.
Hi, Ken. And then
hello.
How about we? I know that you've been talking to the original Grisabella online, but here she is live, Miss Betty Buckley.
Hey, Kenneth. Hi, James.
Betty Lynn.
Oh my God.
This is exciting.
So exciting.
And then direct from
It
Shelter.
really is. I wasn't sure. It's exciting.
It's happening. We have from Shelter Island, the original Rum Tum Tugger, Mr. Terrence Mann.
Woo!
Hi, guys. Hi.
Hi, Terrence.
Oh, my God.
Look at that face. Handsome.
And then from across the ocean, this is a live show. So
she is staying up late.
It's 8 o'clock in New York, 7 o'clock where Betty Lynn is. It is 1 a.m. in London. Miss Donna King.
Yay!
Yeah!
So happy to see you guys. Oh my God.
Donna King.
And cats, we have one more. I know I said original cast, but we made an exception because she's very connected to the Rum Tum Tugger. A white cat replacement, Miss Charlotte Tempoise is here.
I feel honored to be with you all. You original cat members who I idolized
when I saw you all. So I'm happy to
We
be here.
love you.
We love
I
it.
love you.
Oh,
That's probably
Minnie.
because you were just a little bitty baby then.
I
No,
know.
we did Carrie together too.
Oh yeah, you did carry together.
In
Charlotte,
Stratford.
We're going to do a carry reunion. We're going to do a carry reunion. We'll talk about that later. Yes.
Okay. Well,
Betty
that's,
and I are planning it. Okay, so here we go. So just so you know, this platform,
huh?
on this platform, you can't talk at the same time because all the sound stops.
And you know who that's the number one problem for?
Anywho, the point is just make sure you do a lot of nodding and then sort of lift your paw if you want to speak. Okay, so I want to first talk about how everybody got their roles. Thank
There
you.
you go. Okay.
Ken Page, you came directly
Yes.
from the Tony Award-winning Ain't Misbehavin'. Of course, Gods and Dolls was before that. How did you get cast in Cats?
It was a horrible mistake. No,
Not
actually,
for us.
no. Actually, you know what? I had heard about the show. Of course, it was a big hit in London, and I heard it was all dances and things. So I didn't really think much about it. And I went to the closing performance of Ain't Misbehavin' as an audience member, and Bernie Jacobs. Oh yeah, Bernie Jacobs. Bernie Jacobs came up to me and he says, "You know, Kenny, I think there might be a part in Cats for you." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, what should I do?" And he said, "I want you to go up to Vinnie Lift's office and get the music and learn it." And we were at the time getting ready to film the NBC TV special of Ain't Misbehavin'. So I took it to Hollywood with me, and I worked on it the whole time we were working on the show there. And I came back, and this, I think, was the last week of the audition process. And I know it had been going on for months, right? Anyway, I came in on a Monday, and I sang, and Trevor came down to the end of the stage, and he says, "That was wonderful. This very quiet voice. That was lovely. We'll have you back." I thought, well, that's good. You know, I'm coming back. So I came back on Wednesday, and I did a monologue, which I thought, monologue, for them, and I sang again. And he came again to the edge of the stage, and he said, "Your talents are manyfold and manifest." And I thought, and goodbye. You didn't get it. You know, there was a big kiss off. But I went away to Fire Island or something. Maybe it was the weekend. I forget. It was the weekend. And I went out there with Reed Jones. And as it turns out, he knew that I had gotten it, and I didn't know. And I love to tell the story about these two Siamese cats that walked around me on the beach. We're walking down the street, down the beach. And this guy approached us with two Siamese cats on leashes. Well, first of all, that was weird enough. But then they walked up to me and they kind of looked at me as if to say, maybe. And they walked around me. He let them off the leash and they walked around me 3 times and then they went on. I thought, well, how weird was that? And Reed was just like grinning. And then I thought, And I got back home Monday and the phone was ringing when I walked in, and it was Tyler Getchell, who said, "Hello, Ken, this is Tyler Getchell from the Getchell Newfield office." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Would you like to play Old Deuteronomy in Cats?" And I said, "You did, yeah, yes." And that's how I got into Cats. That's my story.
Oh, it's so great. So Donna, I don't know your story. I feel like I have an essence. I definitely know Betty's crazy story, Terry's crazy story. Donna, I don't know your story at all.
That's because I sort of crawled into that junkyard on Broadway, and then I sort of stayed there because I'm still in London with all these like Napier people. And so my world changed hugely when I did that show. My gosh, besides meeting all you fantastic people who were like, I still feel so close to you, you know, as many years have gone by, you know, you do when you do that backstage stuff, don't you? But no, it was, for me, I was just so excited. I just loved the punk scene. I loved the London scene since I was a little girl. I was telling my friend today, she said, "Why did you come to England?" I said, when I was about 7 or 8, I remember walking behind my house. I had these little plastic high heels on. Remember the kinds you buy in the packages when you're a little girl? In Kansas, we did anyway. And we had them in packages. You could have them for your daughter. And I'm walking in my backyard. It's hotter than anything in the summer. And I had a magazine, and it was probably in the 1960s, this was. And it said, there's a group in London called the Beatles. Sound like bugs? They're not. They're cats, swinging cats. And I just had this like light bulb moment, you know, and I was just like, just young thing. But I was like so in love with London forever. And I came over here to study dance when I was 14, and I did a tour of West Side Story internationally. with Hector Mercado, was also from our company in 1980. And I just felt so good here. And so here I am 35 years later, grandmother and all.
But did you do cats in London originally?
No, New York with these guys.
So how did you get it? Did you just go to an open dance call?
No, I was in LA doing Grease 2, that movie in Italy they call Vaselina Due. It's taken a while to understand. I kept saying Grease.
I'm calling it that from now on.
It's a sincere answer. Anyway, so I was doing Grease 2, and then I came back. Somebody said, "Oh, Donna, girl, you gotta go check out this show. It's so you. It's so dance. It's so punk. It's so English." So I flew back from LA twice for the auditions, never thinking in a million years I was good enough dancer to get it. And then I just kept putting baby powder on my face and dyeing my hair black and just putting pink makeup on. I just was so mesmerized by the whole trip of it, the dream of it. And I didn't even think I was going to get it. But, like everybody thinks that probably. But I remember the night before the audition, I went to the movies in Greenwich Village and I watched Cat People twice in a row. And it went on, it was like 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock a.m. showings they had then. And I just didn't sleep. And I just went there and I just stood in the back line and I danced for Jillian. And I just was in my own little world. And then I was so surprised when Renee Ceballos was in a taxi. Remember Renee Ceballos, who was a dear cast member who sadly passed away. And she yelled, and I heard her go, "Bombalurina!" And I turned around and I was like, what? And that was my omen, Ken, like you say, the cats walking around you, It was that kind of moment when I was like, really? Am I, chills? I get chills right now even remembering that. It was so exciting and so much fun. And so, that was how I got into the show. But I'm from Kansas City originally. And, I like to dance and everything. So that was really lucky to get that part.
And you became that.
Oh, my God. That's not
an early picture, huh?
No, that's a cheating picture because that's when I went to do that shoot with Andy Warhol. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
And I cheated.
Donna.
Girl, I cheated and I put on a different wig and everything, and they gave me $500. And I said, I'll do it. And I got to do that shoot with Andy Warhol. And it's John Napier would kill me if he saw that wig, so don't tell him.
Okay, we'll give our cat check. So, Charlotte, you were coveting cats from afar. How come you didn't get into the original company?
I was up for the original company. I got all the way. I mean, I was so passionate about that show, and I listened to that album, that London album, and I danced my own, ball in my living room for, a year before the show came in. And then I really got all the way to the end, and there were 5 of us left, and it was an Easter Sunday. I'll never forget Easter Sunday. Grabbing my stuff, and it was at the theater for the final callback, and it was for the 3 kittens and the white cat, or 2 kittens and the white cat, and there were 5 of us. And I remember the 4 of us doing it, and then I remember Miss Cynthia Rubio walking in late, and I was like, I've lost the heart. That's it. It's Cynthia. There's no way. And then she got it, and the other kittens were Christine Langner, and I think Whitney. Yeah.
Whitney Kershaw.
So didn't get it. 2 of us didn't get it and walked out of there. And, I was like 16, 17 or something. And so I was like, I'm going to get that first national company. And then I finally got the first national company. But I still remember you guys all coming to watch. I don't know, Donna, were you there? Ken, Terry, you were not.
I was.
I would have noticed.
For your,
I would have noticed if you were there.
for your final run through, I came for your final run through.
Okay, and I remember we all could not. The whole Broadway company came to see our run through in the studio.
Yeah,
National company, and I remember we couldn't literally. We had just learned the ball 3 days before, and we couldn't get through it. We got through 5 minutes of it, and all of us stopped. And then all of you applauded because you were like, I get it. Yeah, I did the Chinese cat. I was the Cassandra.
All right, I thought you were the white cat. Sorry.
Donna King, I hated my feet. So I convinced John Napier to give me leg warmers.
Why?
That's a big convince.
I had to work it. I got them. I'm the only Cassandra that had kind of leg warmers.
Wow, did you didn't like your line?
Oh, no, I don't have really great feet. I mean, I fake it. Sometimes one foot's good, the other one's not so good. So the one that's good, I point all the time. I'm like,
look at the left, don't look at the right.
ICB.
What was the word or the buzz in New York about London? I mean, cats coming from London, or and being there, because I kind of feel like how the producers is what brought premium seating to Broadway, and I feel like if someone had thought of that, it would have been Cats. If it had been years ago, it would have started with that show. So, I mean, what was it like? What were you hearing about the show, and how coveted was it to be in the show?
Wow, it was amazing. I thought. I mean, everybody was talking about it, right?
I do remember that there was a $5 million advance on the show, which means we would have been working for about 2 years. And I just thought, oh my God, I'm going to have a job working on Broadway and getting paid for a minimum of 2 years. Wow. I thought that was amazing.
That's delicious stuff. So I want to ask Betty, because Betty had done all this Broadway in the 70s, then went to LA for TV and film. Why did Cats bring you back? Why was that the show that you set your sights on?
I'm trying to remember. I had done that TV show, 8 is Enough, for 4 years. And then I did a film called Tender Mercies, but it hadn't been released yet with Robert Duvall. And I got that coming out. Thank you. Coming out of 8 is Enough. But regarding your question, James, everyone had the cast album, the London cast album, and we were all absolutely intrigued. And the music was so powerful and great. But the little pictures in the album, if you recall, they're really tiny, and you can't really get a sense of what the show is, So my agent is this wonderful lady named Joanna Ross, a British agent, and she called me, and she said, we're submitting you for Cats, for the cat that sings the big song. And I knew that song because, I had the album. And I said, well, what's it about? And she said, Cats. And, but is there a story or something? What do I need to know before my audition? She said, it's about cats. And so I was like, okay. So I'm like, I learned the song from the album, listening to wonderful Elaine Page sing it. And I went in and I auditioned for my first audition, and they thanked me, and I left. And they called Donna and said, no, we're not going to go with her because she radiates, as being a Texas girl or whatever, she radiates health and well-being. And we're looking for someone who radiates death and dying. And she's tall. And so I was like, what? And so I just had such a powerful feeling about it. I just kind of knew it was my turn, in terms of my peer group and who could sing and who could act. There were a group of us, and each one of those ladies had like a moment, and I'd been off kind of studying acting, doing this TV show and learning how to be a better actress and a better singer, flying back to New York, studying with Paul Gabbert every 6 weeks. And so I just had this feeling about it, and I said to her kind of audaciously, I said, they'll be back. And she said, really? And I said, no, yeah, they'll be back. This is my part. And so 6 months went by, and everywhere I went, there was cats memorabilia. It's kind of like your Siamese cat thing. But I was looking for a new apartment, and I liked this one apartment, and it had cats things everywhere. So I was like, this is a sign. They're going to come back to me. 6 months later, Joanna called and said they want to see you tomorrow for a callback for Cats. This is after they'd auditioned everybody they could in New York and Los Angeles, all across the country. So I went back in the next day, and Trevor, I was there. It was in the Winter Garden. Terry Mann was actually backstage, which was hilarious. You were the first face I saw when I came off. Thank God for your smiling face, because it was like the weirdest experience. And so I sang Memory, and Trevor came to the corner of the stage and directed me and had me sing it again. More suicidal, more suicidal. So I sang it again, more suicidal. And then he comes back and has me sing it a third time, more suicidal. And I'm like, Jesus. And so I turned myself inside out, and I thought, well, that's the best I can do. I don't know how to be more suicidal than that. I kept use a knife and cut my wrist. I don't know. So, so when I finished they just nodded and said, thank you. So I said, Mr. Nunn, can I speak to you? And he comes down to the edge of the stage. And I said, Mr. Nunn, I know you've been auditioning for Cats all across the states for 6 months. And I know there's any number of young women who can play this role as well as I can, but no one, let me just say this, it's my turn and no one can do it better. And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, and so then I felt really stupid. And I was like, okay, so I'm a really good actress. And if you want me to be smaller, I can be smaller. If you want me to be thinner, I can be thinner. I'll do whatever you want. All you can do is explain to me what you want and I can do it. And I said, but I've been doing this TV show for a while and I know my peer group and I know all those girls are great, but no one can do it better than I can. And this is my part, it's my turn. And he still looked at me in a quandary and he just kind of nodded and I kind of drifted off stage like I was in shock. And I thought, how dare I talk to Trevor Nunn that way? Thankfully, Terry Mann was standing back there and he like smiled at me and gives me this big thumbs up and I'm like, oh, it made me feel good. And then the rehearsal pianist gives me a thumbs up and the stage manager gives me a thumbs up. And I said, oh my God, I just blew that. And she goes, no, Betty, there's times we must represent ourselves. So then I called my agent and I told her what I'd done and what I'd said. And she said, oh my God, Betty, when are you going to learn to keep your mouth shut? You just ruined it. You just shot yourself in the foot. That's it. He's British. He doesn't want to anything, And so I took myself to lunch at my favorite restaurant, and I even got a glass of wine. I was so miserable. And my agent knew where I like to go, and the phone rang a few minutes later, and they called me to the phone, and she said, are you sitting down? And I said, no. And she said, sit down. So I did. I sat down at the bar, and she said, you got cats. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting experience. Oh. Thank God for your smile, Terry Mann.
Oh,
I was miserable.
I heard you sing that. I was backstage and I kept hearing you sing it over and over, and I'm going, oh my God, what the fuck does he want?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know. It was impossible to know.
Suicide.
Harry,
suicide.
So you heard her sing at those different times.
Yep.
Did it sound different or more suicidal as each time she sang it? How did it sound? Not seeing her, but just hearing her.
It just sounded. It sounded more like, "What the fuck do you want from me?" Every time, which I guess is what you want. I mean, I don't know. It got louder. It just got more intense. I just remember. I said I never heard a voice like that before in my life. And how could you not want that emotional thing? Do that song? It was just out of this world.
Thank you.
Every night.
Then they had to hear me do it every night for a year and a half. It wasn't just enough that he had to.
Let me tell you, every night, I'm telling you, it was always one of the, you do long runs, you get used to it, you start checking out, you got to, what am I going to have for dinner in between shows? And I don't think during that song, I don't know about you guys, but every time you did that song, I was like, boom, in it with you.
It was riveting.
It was.
I always remember you coming out when you would come out, and you would come out and you would stand there, I think center stage, or maybe just left of center, and you would just look at me, remember?
Yeah.
And I would look at you and you had this look like, it was kind of like what Terry was saying about, this is it. This is what I got for you. And I remember thinking to myself, I must hear this cat, this woman, Everybody else be still. She's going to sing now. She's going to give us her, her number, since everybody had their turn.
Right.
And I just remember that point somewhere in the number where you would turn away and go toward the audience. And it always brought tears to my eyes because you just were so focused.
Suicidal.
You were so focused. You were so suicidal. You were so focused. I remember one night you were particularly emotional, and I thought, this is it. Somebody's dead. Somebody in the family has died. You came off stage, and I said, Betty, are you okay? And you said, I'm fine. I said, you're fine? And you said, oh, Kenny, I was acting. She good.
Yeah. There it is, man. You know what? I always remember. I remember watching you right before you sang "Touch Me," the big one. You were right before you sang that. You'd been on your knees and you were standing up into it.
Yes.
And you sang that song, you sang that Touch Me on the way up. And I always went, how do you do that?
I don't know how you.
Like, it was like, one of those moments.
I thank you. I had to work so hard. I had a great trainer, and then over the course of the run, I built a lot of thigh and butt strength so that I could do that rise. But at the beginning, it was kind of alert. It was kind of like,
And in heels, you wore high heels.
on it became, like I was all proud of my trainer for teaching me that. So
Yeah.
it was pretty amazing. But our dressing rooms were right next to each other. Do you remember that, Ken?
Yes, we shared a door. I
Yeah.
pretended not to hear a lot of things. Because I hope you did.
I still have the
I heard nothing. I know nothing.
I still have the jewel box you gave me for Christmas. Remember that beautiful
I still have the leather money folder that you gave me.
Oh,
Go
cool.
take it out anytime.
I don't
Yeah.
have some money in it.
Well, I keep it just in case.
Good luck.
It brings me luck, and I love it.
So Terrence Mann, everyone has a crazy story. Yours is probably the craziest. Please tell your Cats audition story. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like a broken record. It's like, very quickly, I had been doing Barnum on the road with Jim Dale and Glenn Close, and I'd heard about this this show that it was coming along, Cats. We all got the album, like you said earlier, Betty, Ken, and we were listening to the music, and we were going, oh my God. And Dirk Lombard, who was in the show with me in Barnum, had come back from his vacation, and he'd been to London, and he came over to me at the matinee while we're putting on our makeup. He walks up to me, he goes, Terry, there's a show in London, and there's a role in it called Rum Tum Tugger, and you should do it. I went, okay. And so I called my agent and I said, hey, I want to audition for Cats. And he went, all right. So he called Johnson Liff, and they said, no, we don't want to see him. We're not really, he doesn't have enough cred, and stuff. So, and
What? Oh my God.
and I went, oh, wow. And then I said, well, call him again. So he told me he called him again. I don't think my agent called him again, and said, well, no, they don't want to see you. And so what happened was I eventually, at the time I was married to an English lady who I said, Juliet, I need to go. I need to audition for this. And she goes, let me make a call to a friend. So she called her friend, Princess Miriam of Johor of Malaysia, who lived in London. I am not kidding you. Called her friend Princess Miriam of Johor and said, Princess Miriam, my friend, my husband is trying to get an audition for Cats, and they won't see him. She just, let me make a phone call, darling. And so she called some people who put money in it, who called the producers, who called the general manager, who called the stage managers, and lo and behold, they said, okay, yeah, we'll see him if he can get himself over here. So Juliet and I flew to London. I saw the show on April the 5th that night, and as you said, Donna, when you walk in, you walked into the theater, the experience was like you were in Cat World. It was like nothing prepared you for that. So the play, the moment, the feeling, the environment, all of that stuff started the minute you walked into the theater, which was new.
Yeah,
very new. And so I saw the show, and I looked at the role, and I said, yeah, I can do that. And then the next day, I had my audition at the New London Theater. And I went down there with my resume, my picture, my music, and I walked up, knocked on the door of the New London Theater, and the door opened, and a stage manager said, yes, may I help you? And I said, I'm here to audition for Cats. She goes, really? Why is that? I said, well, I'm auditioning for the American company. He goes, right. The moment, and slammed the door in my face. And I'm standing there for like 5 minutes. And then he comes, he goes, right, come right in. And I walk in and I go into the theater, and they're doing a put-in rehearsal for some new Cats. And Julian Lynn is sitting over in the corner in the audience eating a tuna fish sandwich. I'll never forget it. And there was a piano kind of lodged in the audience for them to play. And I walked up to her and I said, Ms. Lynn, I'm here to audition for Cats. And she said, oh, darling, I think we have everybody we need. And I said, no, I'm here to audition for the American company. She says, oh, really? I said, yes. If you can just, if the piano player could just come play my music for me, then I'll sing it and then I'll get out of your way. I know you're in the middle of something. She says, well, I'm sorry about that, but he's gone around the corner to the pub for lunch. So we don't have a piano player. And I said, it was surreal. I said, I can play for myself.
Wow.
And she went, really? And she said, good. And then she clapped and she went, darlings, we're going to be entertained by an American. I'm not kidding you guys. And I went over and sat at the piano and I played Elton John's Take Me to the Pilot, which is a rock song. I finished, and everybody, all the other actors there, they're watching me while they're eating their lunch, and they applauded. I went, well, and she walks up to me and goes, you know, darling, you remind me of a very good friend of mine, Tim Curry. And I said, well, I love him, and I'll take that as a compliment. She says, why didn't I see you at the auditions? I said, it just didn't work. I said, well, I'll see you at the callbacks. And so that was April, and I go back to New York. I get a call about 2 weeks later saying you have an audition the end of June, beginning of July, and I go okay, and I go to the Booth Theater, or was it the one in between the Booth and the? Was it the Booth or the? Yeah, right. And I go there, and there's me, and a kind of a ballet dancer-y kind of really lithe kind of guy, and this soap opera guy with really cool hair, and me, and they're all short. So I just went, I got it. So we go out and I play my song again, and then we dance for like 20 minutes doing the ball, and as you all were saying, Trevor comes down to the end of the stage. Couldn't be more gracious. So gracious. He comes down to the end of the stage and he says in that soft way, he goes, you were in Barnum. I said, I was. And you did the matinees, correct? I said, I did. He said, you walked a wire from proscenium to proscenium while you were singing. I said, I did. He goes, how was that? And I didn't. I said, it was hard. It was hard. He goes, it was hard. Lovely thing. And he walked away. And then I walked out of the theater after the audition. Didn't say anything. I go to the phone booth that used to be in Schubert Alley. There was a phone booth in Schubert Alley. I call my agent. He said, lucky you called. You got the job. And by the way, happy birthday. It was on my birthday.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Yay. Were the callbacks at the booth? I remember the Winter Garden, or my callback.
I was at the Winter Garden.
I came to the Winter Garden when you were there to do a sing thing.
Why were you back at the Winter Garden then that day?
I was singing again.
Oh, so this wasn't your final callback? It was
not my final. No.
That was your first callback.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And then here's you and Donna.
Because you have the most. There we are. Terry, I love performing with you, and also you have the true rock voice. I remember talking to you in rehearsals, and you were like, "I was in a band in Florida," and I was like, "Cool."
Oh my God, you remember that? Yeah.
You were the sexiest rum tum tugger I've ever seen, and I've seen several at this point. You were beyond the sexiest, and the most brazen, and the most brash one. And the
it
one
was
that was what?
Organic.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It was the best.
It really was. It was in your DNA. It wasn't like you were putting it on. It's like you were bringing it out.
No, man. It was my rock star moment, I think.
It was so good. It was like amazing.
I have to say my favorite moment, if I could, I had one of my favorite moments was about you, Kim Page, when you forgot not one lyric.
God, don't say that. It was horrible.
The most amazing moment in theater history to hear You go,
It
you've
was Twilight.
heard of several kinds of cat. Gun slayer. On.
I remember I just kept saying cats.
You
over and over.
remember?
Cat, oh cat, cat. I thought, God, please give me these lyrics back. And they were just like fluttering away like butterflies, just fluttering around. I thought, good Lord Almighty, this is the most horrible thing could ever happen to anybody. And you're up in the air, and everybody's looking at you, including the cast. And I
We
thought,
were going.
is he ever going to recover?
Ever
That's
going to
exactly
remember
how I
one
look at it.
word?
Everybody's like this. It was bad. It was bad. And you know, you break out the
You might
flops.
know the words. Do any of you know to help me?
Please, someone. But it was nobody could help me. I was just up there.
Oh,
Up
yeah.
there in the air. Because Cynthia and Rubio would always help you. She, no matter where you were, if she was near you, she'd give it
Yeah.
to you.
She was quick.
She knew everything. She knew everything.
You knew everything.
She didn't help me though.
Hey everyone, we've got some donations, in, but we're going to
One of
take
my favorites.
a break to have for Dr. Lapook to come on. So everyone watching, keep the donations coming because we're going to
we have
send
a whole
them.
list of donations.
We
but
already go ahead.
keep more coming. So guys, you want to donate? Keep them coming. Keep forwarding. We're going to forward this list in a minute, but keep
So we're
sending
going
them
to
in.
say goodbye for a little bit.
Yes.
Betty Lynn,
Ms.
Charlotte, and we're going to welcome the chief medical correspondent of CBS News and stars of the house, Dr. Jon Lapook.
That was so entertaining. That story with Terry Mann going to the stage door and saying, "I'm here for the audition," and the guy says, he opens it and he closes it, and he says, it reminded me of the Wizard of Oz when they go to the emperor and he goes, "Go away!" Boom.
Yes, totally.
But that is better.
I love that you watch the show, Dr. Lapook. You're such
Of
a
course,
theater.
I love the show, and I love you guys. I'm speaking for everybody. This is what you do for us all. You just raise the level. I know I've been depressing for you the last couple of days, Seth. You know, when you say, "Oh, you bring me down a little bit," but
necessary.
Right, necessary. Forget about that today. You know what I want to do today? I want to tell people I had a 30-minute discussion with a family about something that everybody is talking about. How do I go out and play again? How do I go? I'm going out. I want to be with my family. I'm going on this vacation. Who can come? Who has to stay away? How do we do it?
Right.
And it's a big discussion, and we don't have a ton of time. But let me focus in on the big thing that people are getting wrong. I've had this discussion now probably 20 times in the past 10 days.
Wow.
The thing that everybody is getting wrong is this incubation period, so I have to go over it. Today, they said, hey, we want to go to this place. The whole family is going to go there. And what we're going to do is we're going to have everybody get tested, with the nasal swab for the PCR to see if you have the virus. We're going to have them get tested 2 days before. And then they'll come up, and they'll be safe, right? And I know it's hard to get your arms around this. It's a hard concept, but it's a 2 to 14-day incubation period. What that means is if you get infected today, let's say I, God forbid, get infected today, and then I get tested on Monday, today's Friday, 3 days from now, and I'm negative, that doesn't mean next Wednesday I can safely be exposed to anybody, because at any time in that 2 to 14 days, I can now blossom, become infectious, and it happens very often before you get symptoms. So pre-symptomatically, you're infectious. So I think there was one family who actually had it right, but every other family has had it wrong. And so you have to take that into account. So if you're thinking about having a family get together, the things you have to think about are layers of protection. Nothing's 100% unless you're hermetically sealed. So one is, if somebody's coming, it's not just them who's coming. Who else is coming?
Everyone that they've been around.
For the last 14 days.
Woo! Yes, I love that. I love that so much that you knew that.
Listen.
That's so key. 2, where are you in the world? Are you in Vermont, where there's not that many cases, and the odds are, if people have just been from around here, it's lower risk? Or are you in Texas, Arizona, Florida, Los Angeles right now, places where there are more cases, or New York City, even though we're a lot better there now. That's that. 3, how vulnerable are you? Are you somebody who is now anybody can get a bad case of COVID-19 and be seriously ill, but are you in that vulnerable group? Older, obese, hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, lung disease. And then on top of that, what else can you do? You can wash your hands 20 seconds. You cannot touch your face. You wear the mask. You wear the mask to protect other people, because especially the aerosols, the droplets, they can significantly get diminished by that. And then are you inside or are you outside? Right. So outside is a lot safer than inside. Inside, the CDC says if you're the Centers for Disease Control, if you're within 6 feet, you have to wear a mask. If you're outside of that, the advice is it's not so definitive. And that's where this whole aerosolization comes in. If there's poor ventilation, then these little tiny 5-micron droplets can dry out and float across the room. We don't know how infectious they are. We think it does happen, infection that way. So what can you do inside if you want to decrease your risk? Open a window, open a door.
Ventilation.
I think you're going to see people devising very clever ways of, number one, fixing buildings, having UV filters in duct systems, have sort of filters in the air, all sorts of things. And then I think you're going to see some real innovation with masks. I think we haven't even begun to look into that.
Wow.
And I'm hearing little people whispering in my ears about that. I think there's going to be real innovation with masks. Right now, why should people just put on a washcloth? There's all sorts of things you can do to think about ways to make it more efficient. So I'm very excited that cautiously we can think about having a strategy for getting out there. Nothing's 100%. But again, if you have all this information, you made my day, Seth and James, by knowing that you bring with you everybody you've been with you for 14 days. If you just bring that with you as a piece of information, you're way ahead of the game.
As this nice man says, we get an A in paying attention.
Oh, I love that. You know where the word doctor comes from? The Latin docere, meaning to teach.
And we are your students.
Yes.
And I am your.
We'll see you.
Well, next week. Well,
Yeah,
have a
next
great
week.
weekend. Yeah, we'll see you Tuesday
Have a
night.
great weekend, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Lapook, as usual.
Bye.
The best. So sweet. Now let us bring back the kitties. And Terry's going to be some donations.
Oh, good.
We've got Mr. Ken Page and the lovely Brit herself, Ms. Donna King. We have Charlotte Dubois. We have Bella herself. And we have the man to read the donations. Now, by the way, Terry and Charlotte, someone said you guys were in the same house, but Charlotte's visiting the city right now. It looks like the same house, the same decorations. But
It does. Well, we're in two different places for sure. New York and Shelter.
So, Terry, man, let's hear some of those donations. I sent you a couple on your phone. I sent you some donations on your iPhone.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you mean? What am I supposed to do?
You sent it to the wrong cast member.
Are we supposed to all have our phones?
I sent them.
Oh my God.
What are you talking about?
I just texted
Send them
you.
to Batty Lynn.
I don't have any. Donations. I see.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
my God. David from Boston, $25.
Yay.
Yay, Davey!
Yay, David.
Nancy from Hawaii, aloha, $50.
Thank you, Nancy.
Aaron, $25. And that was a girl, E. And then Aaron, AARON, $150.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yay, Aaron.
So, Terry, while I'm on you for a minute, who convinced you? What was the reason for doing that Rum Tum Tugger video that was like MTV? Like,
I just saw that recently. Get it, Terry, I said.
I'll tell you how it's so ridiculous. I'm standing backstage one night after the show. I walk off Jeff Lee, our stage manager, and I look at him and I say, and this was when HBO was just coming out with videos of numbers from shows and rock videos and stuff. And I said to Jeff Lee, God, the Tugger would be a good kind of pop rock number to do as a video. And he goes, you're right. And then Tom Reed, God rest his soul, and Jeff Lee and I got together and we wrote a kind of a script, for the number. And then Jeff Lee and Tom Reed went to the Schuberts, presented it to them, and they said, okay, and threw us $250,000
Whoa.
in 1983 to do the video. David Geffen, I think, threw some money in for that thing. I'm not sure. And then so that's where it happened. And after the video came out, the album sales went up 50%, and there it was. But the real reason I did it was so that I could watch my future wife dance mostly.
Aww.
Charlotte,
So
You picked the cat. You.
Charlotte, you're in it.
I was in the show at that time. I was on Broadway. So I did the first national for a little while, about 6 to 8 months, and then they moved me to Broadway. So I was there, and there I was in love and love and love and love and love. Love and lust. Yeah.
I'll never forget when we did the put-in rehearsal for her when she came in to the Broadway company. I went, wow, it's amazing, so abandoned and all that technique. And then I watched her in the show that night, and she'd like kicked it up another amazing notch as a performer. And I thought to myself, gosh, I don't think I'll ever be that talented, but maybe I can date it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
All right, well, let's watch a little bit. My only comment about it is, are you wearing a lace front wig, or is that your natural Shirley Temple? Terry, your hairstyle?
No, that's a full wig, full-on wig.
Let's watch, and you approve the wig. Anyway, let's watch. Let's just see.
Tell me. If you love me, I'd rather have crowds. If you put me in a house, I would much prefer a flat. If you put me in a flat, then I'd rather have a house. If you set me on a mouse, then I only want a rat. If you set me on a rat, then I'm just a mouse. And there isn't any need for me to shout it.
Excellent.
I love that.
Yay!
Woo, woo, hot, baby. Pump it up. Pump it up.
Oh, God.
So good.
Terry, I want to know if your kids have seen you in that.
I don't know, Shar, have they seen that?
I don't know. They don't seem interested in anything we do whatsoever. I don't think they've seen anything we've done except the shows that we opened while they were kids. That's it.
Yeah. Betty Lynn, will you tell everybody about your crazy opening / critics night for the people out there that don't know the difference?
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am.
My worst experiences ever? You want me to relive that?
Yes, please.
Look, I talked about not remembering my lyrics.
Okay.
No,
It's so funny sitting here, though. It's like I'm just thinking. I keep remembering a million things. Like one thing I remember that's really cool that Ken and I did. We're together on the tire, and then I step up onto the cherry picker crane as it goes out through the ceiling, and they built this room at the top of the Winter Garden just for us, for this crane to go through. And so we worked this thing out where when I get on I'm really nervous about getting on in real life, but I was also hesitant about, because there were no like wires or anything to secure you in case you fell. And it was this really small thing. And so Ken is assisting me as I get up there. And so we touch each other's hands, like I'll put and we like this, and then we just as we pull away, and it was It was like Michelangelo's that beautiful Sistine
Yeah,
Chapel.
Jesus.
We stole that image, and it's been in all the productions with a machine like that since. But I'm really proud of that contribution we made. I think that's so super cool.
And they did it. They used it as the. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just said they used it as the button on one of the commercials. I forget which one.
Yeah.
But I always felt like that was our major contribution out of everything else we did.
Our contribution to Cats.
That's
we did that. We made that up.
Yes, and it happened spontaneously, which was so wonderful.
Yeah, and then we kept it. It was page and B Buckley for you. Anyway.
Yes. I remember this great breath that you took after the first time that we did the hand touch, and you took this exhalation, inhalation kind of moment and the audience applauded. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
It was so cool.
Also saved my life because the show after the Tonys that we went on, I had been afraid of these machines for this is not the story you requested, but this is a good story.
Yeah.
So I had been afraid of them from the beginning. In fact, at the first rehearsal when they presented the design, I was like, that's not safe in front of everybody. And Trevor was really mad about it. He did not like it. And so I was like, oops, I got to keep my mouth shut. And so because the angle was not safe, everything about it was not safe. And so people started everybody was very excited after we won all the Tonys. And it was I think that performance the next
it was.
And so the audience was going freaking nuts for everything because we won. Did we win 8 or 9 Tony Awards?
I think 9.
Yeah, okay.
Let's say 9.
Let's do that. So,
9 lives, 9 Tonys.
So as we're going, there was this tire that goes forward on a track and rises in the air, something like 40 feet into the air. And it goes down the stage. And Ken is holding me. I'm on his left. And he's holding me in, and he's taking me up to the heaviside layer. And all the cats are singing their big number. And it's amazing, very dramatic. And then the crane comes down through the ceiling, and it lands on the side of the tire. And then I do my little step up onto the thing and hold on to Ken's hand, and I go up through the ceiling. So that night, we're going up. And as we're going up, I hear this, Ken and I hear, and we're like, what is going on? Wood is flying from the ceiling.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Flying and falling down chips of wood onto the cats. And the cats still are singing. The audience is going nuts. And so
what a dramatic moment they're thinking.
It was really dramatic. The heavens are coming down upon us. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Anyway, we get up to the thing. And as we're going up, I swear to God, in slow motion, I see these headlines of my death, right? Which is Tony Award winner killed, in So I see this kind of slow motion of my whole life, my whole everything about it, and coming to this moment of time. And we get to our spot on the tire, and in the meantime, the crane comes bursting through the track, because the stagehand had forgotten to lift the trap door out. And it was about 8 feet by 10 feet, something like that. And it's this big slab of wood. And the stagehand forgot to pull it out. And it was the only man-made action. Everything else was on computer. And so the trap door is swinging in the air as we start.
Big time.
It's loose and comes slamming down onto the place where I'm supposed to step. But before that happened, Ken has me all cloistered in his wonderful comfy hug, and he whispers in my ear, he says, "Are you going up there?" He says, "Because you don't have to." And I was like,
"Good night.
I'm doing it.
I'm not doing it tonight."
I made that decision, because he told me I could. And right after I did that, the trapdoor slammed down.
Yeah.
And then Ken cloisters me in. And then we look at each other and we realize we've escaped this horrible accident. And then gradually the tire goes back. So I just kind of crouched down in the tire and tried to mimic the choreography of everybody else to finish the show. And I remember I was just like beyond terrified. And I came off stage that night. John Napier, I was shaking for a couple of days after that. John Napier was standing there in the wings, and he just looked at me with this look of pure horror because he knew that I'd been terrified of those machines from the beginning. And so it was like really scary. But anyway, I owe my life to Ken Page.
And you know what was so great about when you were there? I remember Trevor once saying to me, he says, I want you to think about, and Andrew as well, I want you to think about when you're doing the addressing of cats, it's like talking to a reader's group of children, i.e. the books, the tell your poems, and really illustrate for them and let them feel it. And don't be afraid, Trevor said, don't be afraid to be illustrative. I thought, well, I'll go look that up and then I'll do it. And with Betty sitting there, it was from then on, I had another imagery because I would look down at you and I'd say, you've heard of several. And
when you remember the word.
Yes, shut up. Yes, I said, and it was just so cool to look down at you right there. And it's from then on, I knew what he meant. I wasn't quite so sure what he meant before then. But looking at you, I thought, oh, that's it. It's like people are sitting in it. I mean, they've done it. I don't know what took me so long. Everybody was on stage looking up at me, and I still didn't get it,
So you
took me a minute.
Trembling child at your feet.
Yeah, well, but it gave me the right. It was like, calm this lovely child down and make everything lovely and quiet.
Do you guys remember how detailed detailed rehearsals were? Do you remember how detailed, like the naming of cats and doing rehearsals? That took forever. And Trevor would go every word had a different emphasis, and he would explain what were the words of the you've heard the naming of cats. That's it. To be like the word the. Let's take that apart. Naming. Yes. Why naming? Let's think about that word naming. Of. We got it. Let's skip along to the next one. But it went on and on, didn't it? But it was the most detailed rehearsal. Wasn't it? He did it.
How long was it?
Over and over and over again. Do you remember that? It was just over and over.
And the
improv. We were in sync.
Cat improv.
So much improv.
Yeah.
So much improv.
Betty, didn't you have to do Sinead turns across the floor?
Oh, please. You're reminding me of the worst experience of my life. The other worst day, this story before we opened, when I found out that was the critic night, and I did, anyway, Ken will remember this too, but we all had to, there were like 5 of us maybe that weren't really dancers in the show with like some of the greatest dancers in Broadway history. From, and some of the most beautiful people you can imagine with their most exquisite bodies. And so there were the normal people. And so we had to be in the dance warm-up every morning with Jillian.
Every morning.
I studied dance, but still I was just so embarrassed. I was so inhibited. And I remember I went to get my dance clothes at Capizio, so I'd be all ready. And I got leg warmers. And I remember Donna when I first, I was obsessed with how beautiful Donna was and what a magnificent dancer. But we were in the ladies' dressing room. I hope I don't know if you'll remember this. And I was studying you guys and trying to get my leg warmers just at the right. And you and Whitney Kershaw and somebody else were looking at me, and you just burst out laughing, like the 3 of you or something, like, who is this simpleton? And I was just like, oh my God, I'll never, this is so humiliating. Okay, so then we have to, just one thing to be on the back row in the warm-up, right? But then the day, Jillian says, okay, we're going to do turns across the floor. And I was like, no. And so we had to do turns across the floor. And then it was like, we're going to do cartwheels across the floor. I'm like, no. I'm going to do these not cartwheels, but trying. So I was trying. And then it was so humiliating. Do you remember that, Ken?
Yes. It was like the worst nightmare you could have. I want you to dance in front of everyone.
Dance in front of the
best dancers in the country.
In the business.
Yes.
But you guys all danced in the opening, right? Betty, you were in the opening dancing, and Terry, you had a dance?
Yeah. Oh, here's another favorite memory.
A little arm swinging I did. That's about it.
Yeah, I was way up in the top, and Terry Mann was on one side, and Hector Mercado was on the other side. I like where the car boot was, or the trunk and stuff. And one of my favorite things to do is to pull pranks when I'm leaving the show. So I had that day, my last performance, I had little tiny squirt guns in my arm warmers and my leg warmers. And so Terry was on my left and Mercado was on my right. And every time there was a pause, I would squirt one of them with my squirt gun. And Terry was like,
What? I thought the sky was falling.
where the water was coming from. And I was like,
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. You're so unprofessional.
I know. And the other thing I did on my last performance, I went to FAO Schwartz, remember that wonderful children?
Yes.
And I went to get a little mouse, and but I realized that mouse was at the wrong scale for a cat, human size. So I ended up getting this little stuffed beaver, little stuffed animal with a flat tail, right, like a beaver. And so I warned Anna McNeely before I went on for my first Isabella entrance, and I said, I'm going to do this thing, Anna, but just like let me establish it, but then come take it away from me. And she's like, okay. So I come out with this beaver hanging from my mouth. I could hold the flat tail in my mouth. So I was like this Isabella with this mouse in my mouth. So I came out, and one of the boy kittens comes right and confronts me first, and he was in such shock because we'd been doing it for like a year and a half, and he couldn't understand what he was seeing. So he was like in this like state of like, oh my God, what's happening, right? And I was like, I go around him, I go to the next person, and finally, in the audience, you can, as they start to see me, I'm to my right. This little giggle starts happening through the audience. And I get about almost to center stage, and Anna McNeely comes on and swipes it away from me. But that was another one of my favorite pranks.
How did you keep it straight? How did you not laugh? That's amazing to me. I would have.
I love pranks. The best.
Speaking of dancing in the opening, I found this clip of the original opening. I don't know if you can see yourself.
No, don't.
I don't know if you can see yourself. It's a group shot. But wait, there's more. Betty Lynn, there's no Broadway cast recording. I didn't realize that basically everybody was on harmony and you were the only one on melody. Listen to the opening of this number. Betty's voice cuts through everybody. It's so amazing. It's just the most amazing. Listen to Betty. Here we go. This is a group number. Here we go.
We can run up a wall, we can swing to the trees. We can run some horse, we can walk on a wire. Jellicles can jellicles do, jellicles can jellicles do, jellicles can jellicles do, jellicles can jellicles do, jellicles from the jellicle cat, jellicles from the jellicle cat, jellicles from the jellicle cat, jellicles from the jellicle.
It's you are belting, Betty. I love it.
I had to sing melody because I couldn't learn any of the harmonies. So.
Charlotte's act. Charlotte does a number in her act where she recreates the opening, and she says the harmony was so hard to learn she's never forgotten it, and it's horrific. When I played for her, and wait, Charlotte, sing some of your horrible harmony line.
Jellicle songs for jellicle cats. 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 It was so hard to learn. I still remember it.
That is
Stanley Lebowski. He was like a drill sergeant.
Yes.
Stanley.
Dan Lebowski.
Stanley.
Oh.
I have two more things. Terry, just quickly tell everybody, because Betty will especially appreciate it, when you came to the audience and you wanted to dance on opening night.
Did what? What did
The person you approached in the audience to dance with.
Oh, one night, you mean? Oh.
A very specific night. The person that rejected you.
Oh. Yeah. So I used to go out in the audience and pick somebody up, and it totally graduated. When I saw it in London, the guy came out, speaking of squirt guns, when I saw it in London, the guy playing the tiger went out in the audience with a squirt gun and just shot everybody with the squirt gun in the audience. And some people went, no, I don't like that. And so I changed it to eventually I would go and I would grab somebody. I would see somebody sitting in the aisle seat and I would pull them up and we would go up on stage and we would dance around and then I would take them back to their seat. I mean, and all manner of things happen. Some people would fall down, and some people had more things on display than you wanted when they fell down. And but this one night, a very special person was in the audience, and it was Bob Fosse.
Oh my God!
And I'm up in my perch, stage left. With Betty, remember we used to hang out stage left before we would go out for eyes.
Yeah.
And I was up in my perch. I was scanning who I was going to pick up out of the audience. Because you can always tell by body language who's like in it and would go. And I look across all the way to the audience left aisle, and there's Bob Fosse in a powder blue suit.
Woo.
I'm going to go get him and bring him up on stage. So I do the number, I get in the break, I run out into the audience, I'm running across, and I see him looking at me, and I see just terror in his eyes as I approach him. And I start to grab his hands, and he says, "Don't you fucking touch me." Okay.
Okay then.
A lot of people came to that show. Remember opening night? Like everybody and their mother was there. And my mother, speaking of mothers, didn't think that she could get in through the red rope. She thought it was for all the special people because she goes, Baryshnikov was there and Jessica Lange and Mary Turner Moore and all these people. She goes, well, honey, I didn't think I was supposed to go through that rope. I'm like, yes, Mama, you're supposed to go through the rope. So she finally got in.
My mother talks about how her memory is that she stepped on Barbara Walters' foot. And she went, oh my God. And she went, I'm sorry. And then she looked and she went, oh, you're Barbara Walters. She said, yes, and that's my foot. And so she tells everybody still, I stepped on Barbara Walters' foot. It was a terrible moment. But we had a conversation.
Do you remember when Cary Grant came backstage?
Yes.
Oh my God, it was so exciting. He was so charming, and he was so nice to us. And he said, back in my day, the way you all sing and dance and act, you all would have been stars. And,
yes.
Oh, he was so kind.
Yes.
So kind and sweet. And Frank Zappa came back.
Yep.
Frank
Zappa sitting up backstage. There he is.
There we are. You guys, I got to go to Studio 54 with him that night, and he didn't want to dance, but he was, and of course I was like twitching, and he just says, go dance. And he just stood there and like watched me. He was so sweet and so kind, and it was just like an amazing thing.
I remember coming to the theater that night, Donna. I remember walking up the stairs, and I go to the first landing where the first dressing room, and I see Frank Zappa sitting there, kind of making notes. I'm going, this is surreal. And I go, hey, man, what are you doing? And he says, I'm thinking about writing a musical. Like,
he could have.
I remember like the first time we saw each other in real life after like months of doing the show, if you'd run into somebody on the street, you wouldn't even recognize them because you knew them in their Cats gear. And then you see them, you're like, I know you. How do I know you?
I know you from somewhere. You look really familiar.
Yeah. But my favorite thing was the masks at the beginning, our little green light masks. And I just love the whole thing. You go up, you try to get as close as you could to people in your section of the audience that you were assigned. and you try to get as close as you could and not breathe because so they wouldn't know you were there, and then flash your lights and people would scream. That was very successful if they jumped out of their seats. You know, it was really
They would say a lot of things like "fuck," and you'd be right in their face, and they'd,
Yeah.
Donna, remember the time we got stuck on Fire Island?
Yes. Oh my God.
Ah.
Yes, I do remember that. Horrification.
We were having a lot of fun. We had to take an
we
airplane.
had a lot of fun.
Airplane.
We took a seaplane in, and they held it because there were other people booked for it, and they knew we were in Cats, blah, blah. And they said, if they don't come at the exact moment, we're going to put you on, because they'd already spoken to the theater, there was a whole thing. We're going to put you on there and get you out. And we got off the plane over on the east side, and there was a cab waiting. We got to the state. I think Sally Jacobs had the door open for us to run in. And in it had to be 20 minutes tops. We were on the stage in makeup going, "Are you blind when you're blind?" And I remember we passed each other on stage and we were like, it was so fast. And we were full on the stage in makeup in Cats.
Are you
And only minutes before we were all on Fire Island going, "Oh, well, I guess we're not going to get there." They're like, "Oh, yeah, you're going to get there." Donna.
Okay. Oh, there was a lot of dancing going on back in those days.
I know. We were like, "Oh, shit, it's time to go."
A lot of Gros Jetés down Broadway. Woo, woo, woo. I remember feeling like, however much we partied at night, as long as I got to David Howard's ballet class at noon, I was going to be okay, But I would be up all night, Mud Club, and all punking out, and just really remember studio.
Good times.
Good times, man. Good times.
You guys, the show's only supposed to be an hour overtime. I'm devastated. We should have another one because there were a lot of cats that aren't here. I thought I would just end. Betty, I just said this to Betty. Lily's my very first TikTok, which I'm obsessed with. So just to celebrate cats, let's watch Betty and her brilliance with no makeup on. But it's a little 30-second video of how amazing she was. Here we go. Yeah. Seth Rudetsky here. I'm here to talk about BB, Broadway Brilliance, Betty Buckley. First of all, pure vowel. It's not touch May, it's touch me. Second of all, it's not grip, touch me. It is amazing vibrato throughout the whole thing. Third of all, touch me. It's so easy to leave me all alone with the memory of my days in the sun. One breath. Not possible? Oh, yes, it is. Listen. And what do you get for that kind of performance? Well deserved.
Thank you. Thanks, Dad. That was so nice. Thank you.
Unbelievable.
Well, hold on. We have to give a shout out to the person who created it, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. Julie forced me to get on TikTok. I screamed and fought, but I'm so glad. Julie did.
Hi, Julie. Hi.
Hi, Julie.
I'm happy to meet you.
She's
so beautiful.
Yeah, he hates social media like that, so I
refuse.
I helped him get a TikTok, and now I'm kind of fading out on it. But
yeah, well, thank you. She did one thing, and then she's like, "I'm out."
That's right.
Anyway, in conclusion, so Ken, you're gonna come back. We're gonna do an A Misbehavior one. I want to do a whorehouse one, by the way, Donna King, right?
Okay.
So all time bras, we gotta do Carrie.
Come on.
We've got to do Carrie and Terry. People are requesting a Beauty and the Beast one, so we gotta talk.
Okay.
Terry should do the Pippin one too. The recent.
Yes.
I
love that show.
Pippin, Terry, amazing, so great.
Wasn't he hilarious? And
Charlotte too.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Charlotte. It was amazing. I saw it 3 times.
I'm gonna do final credits. Here, I'll play you guys out with something.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys, that was so fun.
Thank you.
Love y'all.
Love y'all.
Love you. Now and forever.